So when I took Chinese 485, our teacher was still stuck in China due to some visa issues for the first probably 3 months of the semester. So we used this, it was Skype. It was Skype, and we were able to see her, she could see us, and then she would teach us through that. And I think that the way that they made up that classroom went really well. It definitely still had there were borders and limits to how much you could communicate with her, due to the fact that you could only communicate to her through a screen or other texting, messaging, or there was the time difference, which was also a big change. And in addition to that, in my own studies, I used an app called Pleco, and the Flagship did provide us with registration codes that allowed us to incorporate different add-ons like flashcards, a handwriting character recognizer, or camera one. So I think those were really helpful. They also provided us with different Chinese news apps so that we could work on our own time looking up and practicing reading. I think by giving the students access to these apps such as Pleco or these different Chinese news apps, it's a great way it's a more convenient way for students to learn Chinese on the side without having to go too much out of their way to learn stuff. The only thing that I would have considered buying would be other add-ons for the Pleco, but if I really had any problems, I could look it up elsewhere or find other means for solving my problems.
Through social media, interacting with like Korean natives, I think I can confidently say I spend a lot of time doing that. Yeah, things like Facebook, like my news feed on Facebook, about more than half of it is just my Korean friends.
Personally, if I'm honest, I'm not the most tech-savvy person, so coming into the flagship program, I personally didn't use what you would call innovative technology to learn my language. I'm kind of a more old-fashioned person. I just take my notes, I read my textbook, sometimes I make flashcards. Other people I know maybe use like Quizlet or some online tools to help them. It's just, they find it easier to just have a handheld device that is more interactive that way. And in Flagship, maybe they use basic technology like PowerPoint. Students make PowerPoint presentations, but other than that, it's not that much, I guess, different from your typical classroom setting, which I realize nowadays as technology advances, there's a lot more opportunities that programs can take advantage of, which is why I'm glad that the Flagship program is trying to incorporate new versions of technology to try to update its way of teaching, maybe to get students more invested in their learning experience. So I think it's something to look forward to.
I think technology is an integral part of the Chinese learning experience, especially now. I mean, just so much of, I would say maybe my generation and lower is focused on, that social interaction and like a technology-based kind of environment. But learning it, to keep this simple, I guess, compared to people who were at DLI before me and the methods they had to use, cassette tapes or I can't even imagine the kinds of technology versus, using iPods or something like that. It's a lot easier now, and I think maybe one of the most difficult things is kind of seeing the breadth of technology there is to help and finding what specifically works for you. But there's ample technology out there, and I use Chinese dictionaries quite a bit, and they're helpful. Having audio recordings of Chinese that you can go back and listen again and again to certain vocabulary words that maybe you're not familiar with. Those are things that technology definitely has helped in the language learning that maybe we didn't have before. I was still a DLI student. I had an Android platform phone, and therefore Pleco at the time wasn't available to Android, so I purchased a different kind of software. And I've been using that ever since. That's 5 years now of using this one dictionary. I like it quite a bit. It wasn't too expensive. It's been pretty much my crutch through learning Chinese. Now that I'm part of the Flagship, I didn't have to purchase it personally as part of the program, but now I have access to Pleco, and its full version. And so I'm still kind of working my way through getting used to using that, because the dictionary obviously is much more ample.
In terms of using technology to increase language learning, social media specifically has been an invaluable asset to many students. I think that before, if you wanted to communicate with people, you had pen pal arrangements, or you had to physically go to the respective country to learn whatever language, maybe hang out in a Chinatown or something like that. Now students are able to mingle with others from various countries instantaneously through social media. And not only does this facilitate greater speed with language learning, but it also allows you to come across types of language that you would otherwise never imagine or come across at all. I believe that the future of language learning technology is going to revolve around interactive models. So types of technology that will either allow or force students to interact with it, right? So this could be something as simple as a student speaking back to a computer program, the computer recognizing whether their pronunciation was correct or incorrect, or typing something over. And certainly many programs, software already allow for this. Examples, things like Duolingo, even Rosetta Stone, and many others force students to interact. I think this is crucial.